holy grail.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another meal prep video. So listen, I know it's been a hot minute since I've done a meal prep video, and that is honestly because I haven't really been meal prepping. However, it is once again time to pick up my meal prepping mantle because, you know what? Meal prepping is just better for you. Meal prepping helps you help yourself. You know what I mean? So the theme of today's meal prep is essentially going to be super quick, super easy, and above all else, high protein, high fiber, super nutritious and healthy, helping you hit your macros, helping you feel energized, just a variety of flavors, ingredients, etc. that will basically help you compile an endless amount of meals that are not the same, that are fresh and tasty, just to keep things interesting throughout the week, you know what I mean? Because life is just too short to eat the same thing every day, and personally, for me, I just can't stand it. So shall we get started? So basically, by the end of this video, you will have 3 tasty proteins, 3 super delicious veggie side dishes, 2 sources of nutritious carb options. And I will also show you my absolute favorite pantry staples that will essentially elevate any kind of dish, any kind of meal prep, make you feel less sad about the food that you've made for yourself, and just make you an overall happier person. Okay, we are first going to start off with prepping our spring onion. Spring onion adds so much flavor, it just automatically makes your food look so much prettier. But the worst thing about spring onion is that it just gets wilty and sad way too quickly for my liking. So I'm going to show you how to prep it. Now we start by giving our spring onions a nice little shower. Chop off all the roots, you won't be needing those. Cluster them like this, and then just slice them up into small, little, cute pieces. Voila. Now, if you think you're not gonna use up all these spring onions within the week, 100% store some of them in a Ziploc container in the freezer. However, I am going to be popping all of mine into a little jar like this. And voila, there you have it. A jar full of fresh spring onion garnishes for marinades, toppings, etc. And when you store this in the fridge, it can last up to a whole entire week just like this. Trust me, prepping ingredients like this in advance and storing them in a jar makes it so much easier throughout the rest of the week. So as you can see, I've got some spring onion left over from before. Now, into this, we're gonna add a variety of things. All right, these are all the ingredients that you're gonna need for this marinade, starting off with our trusty little spring onions. Then we've got some minced garlic, otherwise known as garlic, pure sesame oil, black Chinese vinegar, soy sauce, some stevia, or you can use honey or whatever sweetener you like. And to top it all off, some roasted sesame seeds, and that is optional, but I highly recommend. Starting off with a little touch of sesame oil. Don't want to be too heavy-handed with that. Just 1 teaspoon will do. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. We're gonna do 2 tablespoons of that as well. 1 nice tablespoon of that. And you're also gonna want to put in 1 teaspoon of that stevia. Another optional little ingredient is some baking powder, and I actually highly recommend adding this to your marinade for any kind of red meat because it makes it so much more tender and it just kind of like softens the meat and tenderizes it as it marinates. So I just add in 1 tiny little teaspoon, maybe even less. See what I mean? It's already tenderizing the meat. It's reacting with that vinegar. And so we are gonna let this marinate for 1 hour. It is now time to cook up that beef. It has been marinating for quite some time now. And did you know, in order for your body to absorb all that irony goodness that is in red meat, hence why red meat is on the menu this week, because I need to boost up my iron levels, we need to be including vitamin C in with it so that our body can actually absorb the iron. And so capsicum, or bell peppers, as they're referred to in America, are actually incredibly high in vitamin C, and I am actually going to be cooking my beef with capsicum, otherwise I already know I'm going to forget to include it in. So I'm just making it easier for myself. We're gonna prep our capsicum. Actually, it turns out the yellow capsicum is the highest in vitamin C. I just have a little trio here. So if you are gonna be using just one color, definitely pick up the yellow and the red. They are higher. Just cutting it into little strips like this. And look at that, what an absolute symphony of colors. Just gonna add a tiny little dash of oil into the pan. That's what it's looking like so far. We're just gonna let that cook on high for a couple minutes until it's browned, and then I'm gonna add the capsicum at the last minute. Okay, it's nice and browned now, so I'm gonna go ahead and add all that capsicum in. We're gonna let that finish cooking up for another few minutes. Essentially, you want to put all this tuna into this jar right here. I'm gonna add in my favorite crispy chili oil, 2 tablespoons of that, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and then we're just gonna do a tiny little bit of salt, maybe 1 teaspoon. And now we are essentially just going to mix that all together, and voila, we've got a custom marinated tuna. Alrighty, now here comes my favorite ingredient for meal prep, and that is the mighty chicken breast. Let's start by butterflying the chicken. Now, don't be scared by culinary terms like butterflying the chicken, because all it means is, see how thick that boy is? You just kind of want to cut it in half lengthways so that, number one, there's more surface area on the chicken. That means more flavor. We're gonna do that for all of them. I like cutting into the thick side right here. This also means that your chicken will cook a lot faster. Okay, heat up your pan with just a little bit of oil. Then we're gonna add in our chicken breast. We're gonna go straight in with some dried Italian herbs, paprika. I like my chicken to be quite well seasoned, and so I don't really use measurements because every single piece is a different size. It's basically, I want it to be covered like this much, you know? And then we're gonna add in some black pepper as well. Now we're just going to flip it over and actually season the other side because we don't want no anemic chicken. Now I'm going to pop the lid on it so it has a more even cook. Moving on to the carb portion of the meal prep, we are making rice. So I like to start off with my brown rice and flavor it with some Italian dried herbs. And normally I would use chicken stock, but I didn't have any on hand this week. So I'm just using some light coconut milk. You just let the brown rice cook for about 10 minutes before adding in the white rice, a little bit more water, and voila, it's so nice and fluffy. And I just love flavoring my rice like this. It just adds so much. I'm just gonna let that cool completely before adding it to this silicone mold tray. This is actually my ice cube tray that I got from Kmart, but I really love it because it does actually make smaller portions, which is exactly what I need for this calorie deficit that I'm in. And so yeah, you just pop that into the freezer and it's good for the rest of the week. Super, super convenient, and yeah, highly recommend. So I'm gonna peel all my carrots. And now we're gonna chop everything up to roughly the same size. Okay, so we are just going to spray a bunch of olive oil onto this. Hit it with a bunch of black pepper. Add in some of those spring onions and just a little bit of garlic, maybe 1 tablespoon's worth. Some salt to season. And voila, slightly smashed potatoes and carrots. Okay, moving on to the vegetables. We're starting off with my favorite, most convenient way of getting your daily dose of greens in, which is this big old bag of kale and spinach. We are going to basically prep this by simply adding it to a container like so. Okay, so that is pretty boring as it is. Now my favorite hack is to add this olive oil spray. So I'm just going to spray some of that in because you really don't need a lot of oil. And then you just go in and then just massage it. Now I'm also gonna go in with some lemon juice. And actually, just to give it a little bit of a boost of flavor, I'm gonna go in with just a tiny little touch of sesame oil. This is optional, but I just love the flavor that it gives. And voila, we have just a bunch of really nice tangy greens to add to pretty much any dish ready to go. Okay, so this next salsa kind of vibe is something that I actually made in my last video, which was like my what I eat in a week, and it was just so good. I just had to meal prep it because it's amazing. So we're gonna start off with some cherry tomatoes. I recommend cherry tomatoes over normal tomatoes just because the water content of cherry tomatoes is less, and so you don't need to like worry about draining it, etc., whatever. So yeah, cherry tomatoes is my preference. We're gonna start by cutting all of these in half. Perfect, now we're just gonna add all those into a jar or container, whichever you have. Next, we're gonna go in with some pineapple. This is a must. Now, these ones are in small little pieces already, as you can see, so I don't need to cut them. Praise the Lord. Now, in terms of the ratio, I'm basically just doing half the amount of pineapple as I have tomato. And so if I'm looking at my jar this way, I want half the amount of pineapple compared to the tomatoes. A little bit more. And now this is the star of the show. This is probably one of my favorite ingredients of all time. It's just pickled onions. And I am going to add both the onion And now in terms of ratios, I'm just basically adding whatever I feel like, but it's probably gonna be half the amount of pineapple. And then I'm also gonna add in the juice. Now, if you don't have this exact product where you are, don't worry. It's just any kind of vinegar. You can add apple cider vinegar, you could add lemon juice, you can add lime juice. And now I'm gonna go in with a little bit of salt. There's a lot of shaking in this video now that I just realized. And voila, we have a really, really nice, tangy, colorful salsa that's just full of goodness, you know? I would add avocado to this, but I wouldn't recommend adding it in now because the avocado would tend to go a little bit funky throughout the week. So this is good to go for probably 4 to 5 days. The main essence of meal prepping is that you are prepared throughout the week and to prep things that just make life a little bit more convenient and meals a little bit quicker. So we're just going to be prepping some cause lettuce, and we're just basically going to wash it and store it so that it's super, super easy to grab. I'm gonna keep the leaves whole because I do like to use the leaves as like taco shells, whatever, that kind of thing, as just like a low carb taco shell option. Let's start by removing all the leaves first. And when it gets to this bit, take the root of it and twist it off, just like that. And it all comes apart quite quickly. I'm gonna wash all of that. Okay, so I've got them all in a container right now. If you do have paper towels, I would definitely recommend lining your container with some paper towel before putting these in, just so it can help absorb some more of the moisture. But as I've forgotten to pick up some, I'll just have to drain out as much of the water as possible. And perfect, a whole entire container of lettuce ready to go. Okay, so very similar to our cause lettuce, I am just going to be prepping a bunch of cucumbers, dicing them up because I want to have it ready to go throughout the week. Simply just adding them to a container like so. And covering it with a bunch of cold water so that they remain crisp and fresh throughout the week. Okay, we are gonna move on to the flavor makers portion of this meal prep video. I have been obsessed with hot honey lately, but the tragedy is, so apparently is everyone else, because it's never in stock at the supermarket whenever I go. And so if you cannot get your hands on hot honey, I'm gonna show you a really, really easy way of just making it by yourself at home. We're gonna start off with a jar. Gonna pour in a lot of honey. Gonna do about 200 grams, which is about half of this bottle. Maybe like half a teaspoon of paprika. I use sweet paprika. And then another half a teaspoon of chili flakes. You can adjust the spice however much you like. I'm gonna microwave this for about 20 seconds. Okay, so microwaving it and heating it up, I actually ended up doing 30 seconds. Just makes it a lot thinner and less viscous. And voila, people, we have homemade hot honey. Gonna give this a little bit of a taste. Oh yeah, that's good. It's got the perfect amount of kick that I want. So again, adjust according to your spice level preference. All right, so now for my other two recommendations for sauces, flavor makers, just, you know, things that will enhance your meals. Number one, some sort of low-calorie spicy mayo. My favorite is the Nando's Peronaise. It is better than Sriracha Kewpie, which I used to be obsessed with, but is incredibly high in calories and not very good for you at all. So this is just, you know, slightly better. And then, obviously, my favorite, which is balsamic glaze. This I just love this so much. So yeah, in terms of sauces this week, I will be using this, as well as that hot honey that I just made. So this is the holy grail. Yeah, right here. With those three, nothing can go wrong. Alright you guys, we are going to start actually assembling the meals, and so this was at the end of my meal prep day. Everything was still quite warm, so I'm just starting off with some of that steak and capsicum, adding in the potatoes and the carrots, and then some of that fresh cucumber, plus the salsa to make a really quick and easy side salad, and then just drizzling it all over with that peronaise, plus the spring onions because, you know, aesthetics. Solid. This was a 10 out of 10. Amazing. Moving on to the next one, I am again starting off with some of the potatoes and the carrots. This was actually my husband's meal, so again, everything was still warm. Plus some of the kale salad, and then just topping it off with some of that salsa, and then we're gonna add in a bunch of that tuna. So this is basically just like a really nice glorified tuna salad, and so fresh, so tangy, so many flavors. I'm adding in some balsamic just to tie it all in together, and again, so good. I love using these cause lettuce leaves as taco shells. Like I mentioned, I like to double mine up just for some extra crunch, and then I'm just gonna microwave some of that chicken. I actually showcased this in my last what I eat in a week video. I don't like cutting out carbs completely. I just like reducing the overall amount when I'm in a calorie deficit. So I've just got a tortilla with some melted cheese on top, and now I'm just gonna add in that chicken, top it with some of that salsa, and then adding in some fresh avocado, and we're gonna top it all off with some of that hot honey. You guys, this meal, I'm dreaming about this meal. Seriously, you've got to try it. Okay, now we are again starting off with a base of that kale and spinach, plus a little portion of the rice. Gonna microwave that up, and then we're gonna top it off with some of the tuna. Now, I love adding in this high protein yogurt I found. It is quite literally the Woolies brand, but the macros are so good. Super high in protein, super low in calorie, plus just a little bit of peronaise for some flavor. And then just gonna mix that all in, add some fresh cucumber, top it off with some spring onion, and voila, super satisfying. Super fresh, and really delicious, full of protein and fiber. Now with this one, here we are. I am removing one of the little rice portions, and I'm gonna add in some of that beef stir fry. Then we're gonna microwave that up, and I am going to just, you know, break apart that rice and mix it all up before adding in some freshly torn cause leaves, plus some of the cucumbers, and then just drizzle in some of that balsamic vinegar. And guys, this is just such a really quick and easy salad. I'm also adding in just a little bit of hot honey just to, you know, add a touch more flavor, and it's just so good. Now I'm starting off with a base of chopped up cause lettuce plus the fresh cucumber, and I am just going to chop up some of that chicken. I like having a really nice small chopped chicken salad sometimes. It's just, you know, something about having everything the same size is just so satisfying. I just added in some of those spring onions, some dried Italian herbs, some of that salsa, and just a tiny little drizzle of that peronaise, and you just mix it all together. Now this in itself would be such a good meal, but this was Sunday, so we decided to treat ourselves a little bit, and we are just having that alongside a slice of fresh sourdough pizza because, you know, gotta get that fiber and protein into every single meal. Now for this one, I'm gonna start off again with the base of potatoes and carrots, and then gonna add in some of that kale and spinach, plus topping it off with some of that steak. Don't forget to add in some of the juice for extra flavor. Gonna microwave that up for a few minutes before topping it off with some spring onion and that hot honey drizzle, because that's where it's at, you guys. And such a solid, nice, protein-packed meal.